Good evening, guys. It's your girl Hope, and welcome to another episode of the Hope Akedika show. I'm actually kind of losing track. I don't know what episode we're on, but I know we're going. Yeah, guys. And also, just in advance, if there's any noise coming from the outside, please just ignore that because your girl refuses to use a soundproof room because aesthetics. I really love the background of this room, and I felt like it incorporated the show really, really well. So yeah, but how has your week been? How have you guys been doing? I trust you've had a lovely week. I've been I had an eventful week actually, going from Easter weekend into this week. Had a few people to celebrate in my life. So yeah, your girl is, needs to catch up on her sleep. But it's Thursday, and Thursday is the new Friday. So no sleep until maybe Monday. Maybe Sunday night we'll try and get a good night's rest. But for now, there's no rest for the wicked, guys. But yeah, let me know if you guys have had a good week, if you've done anything interesting during the Easter holidays with the kids, maybe with your friends, if there's any events that you've been to. There's some great things to do, guys, so don't be boring. Like, I'm such a homebody, but I try to tell people to be a little social from time to time. It's not for everybody. Not everybody is extroverted, but I always like to say I'm an introverted extrovert. So if that even makes sense, guys. So essentially, I'm the kind of person who would be really great in a social event. However, moving away from that, I would need a lot of time to just gather myself back again because I just need some me time a lot. Like on a weekly, daily basis, I need some me time. So yeah, that's what an extroverted introvert is. But yeah, let me know how your week has been. Is anybody on the live? Say hello in the chats. And you guys always talk to me afterwards and be like, oh, this and this, and you have discussions with me offline. And I'm like, we could have this conversation right here on air, guys. That's why I go live. Otherwise, I could just pre-record. I could start doing that and making some pretty perfect videos, guys, for YouTube. I would love to have a perfect video one day and have it on the internet for the rest of my life. But no, I do it this way so that you guys can get involved in the discussion, and it's not just my opinion or how I see things, but you guys also get to educate me and have your input and have your say. Like I said, it's our platform, not just mine. But let's get into the first story. This is actually very interesting because up until I actually read the article, I didn't realize that as a form of discipline, smacking to some extent is actually illegal in the UK. I didn't even realize. However, it is, and the article reads, government rejects calls to ban smacking in England. So there are other parts of the United Kingdom where it is illegal, such as Wales and Scotland. And, England was called by NSPCC to do the same thing. However, they did, in their response, they said, they believe that parents will not abuse their right to discipline their child, and they would, if they ever use that as a form of discipline, they would use it appropriately, and they wouldn't use it as a form of abuse or a form of control, but they would actually do it to instill discipline into their children. And obviously, coming from the African background that I come from, smacking was not even like, it never came to mind that, this could be an illegal thing. And obviously, everybody has a different childhood experience. Personally, for me, when my friends tell stories at school about, being smacked as a form of discipline, I could not relate. I grew up with my grandparents. It's okay. So my grandparents, they were the biggest softies when it came to me. Like, I did not get smacked. But I believe maybe in a different household, if I had a slightly different form of household at a certain age, I would have probably experienced smacking to some extent, but I didn't. I personally didn't. And even when I did relocate to England, yeah, I guess, when you're a good child, that helps. So don't be doing things that is going to get you smacked. But no, jokes aside, guys, obviously there are people who have shared their stories with me, and I'm like, that is not just discipline smacking. Your parents was full blown taking out their angers and their problems out on the child. Like, beating a child black and blue where you can see lines and marks all over their body. Yeah, no, there's levels to that, and that for me falls in the category of abuse. Like, a lot of African households refuse to accept that they've played a big role when it comes to abuse and causing trauma in their children's lives. But I don't blame them. Like I said, it's a cultural thing as well. At the same time, where they come from, it was probably much, much worse. And obviously, with time, you learn. And I'm not saying we're getting it from a westernized perspective, but just with time, even in Africa, less and less children are being smacked as a form of, discipline. Not everybody resorts to that anymore. But let me know what you think, guys. Let me know in the comment section what you think. And no, I'm not asking if you smack your kids, but I'm just asking what you believe, like, when it comes to smacking. What do I believe? I I don't really believe that there's stages when it comes to discipline. There's obviously communication, the verbal aspect of it. There's the, removing things like from the children that they enjoy doing and disciplining them that way. You don't behave yourself, you don't get no TV time, or your tablets get taken away from you, or your toys, or whatever. And different types of different types of disciplining that can be instilled in kids who are slightly younger compared to kids who are obviously older. And I do believe if you the smacking does apply in the household, I do believe that there's an age that the child gets to and you need to stop. Because that's one thing as well that I struggle to understand. African parents, you'll be raising a teenage boy and he's got to a certain age now and he thinks he's a man. And obviously, when they're at that stage, they're a little difficult to deal with. But smacking can either result in that child completely retaliating and it becoming, what was supposed to be a form of discipline has now become what has caused your child to retaliate even further and use that against you, or use that as a way to frustrate you or to act out, But yeah, I do believe that if people resort to smacking, that it should stop at a certain age. I believe before they hit the teen years especially. But it's legal in the UK, but there's a lot of protection around it. You can't just smack anyhow. It's a very hush hush thing, and I don't think people proudly, share that they smack their kids. And I'm sure when they do, it's the most gentle nudge. Oh, child, stop that. Or, I can just imagine what smacking means for somebody else. But for me personally, in this UK, I can't imagine smacking being an extreme form. Unless it is abuse, then it's abuse. We're going to call it abuse. We're not going to call it discipline. That's a completely different thing. They don't fall in the same category whatsoever. But yeah, let me know, guys. Let me know in the comment section what you think. Let me know. Is there anybody online? Give me a wave. Say hello. Yeah, but I find it quite strange actually that in this day and age that England would refuse to reject smacking, because I don't know, sometimes I feel like I get this whole thing figured out and I'm like, okay, this is where society is headed when it comes to things, what is now normalized, what we see as normal, what we deem as acceptable. And then other subject matters come up and I'm just like, wait, like just subtle sort of things such as the legal marriage age being 16 now was taken up again in the UK, I believe, to full adult age, which is 18. And I'm just like, wait, that was still a thing in the UK? Like, how? Like, we believe that we're so progressed and we've come so far as a society. However, there's just little things that when light is shone on it, you realize how actually you're not as far and progressed as you think you are, or so ahead compared to, I don't know, because people like to believe that the Western world is so far gone compared to other parts of the world, which for me, yeah, obviously there's a lot of truth to that. But when it comes down to the personal stuff and people's experiences, I believe that we're not that far off really. Like, it's just a matter of economic advancement that plays a massive role in people's experiences. Other than that, people are people everywhere. Children are children everywhere. Speaking of governments and the structures of governments, let's go into our next story, which is on nanny state not being sustainable. And if you don't know what a nanny state is, it's actually a sociological term, and it just refers to a government that supports its people, that plays a big role in supporting and sustaining the people in the country. So, for example, the UK or the US, to some people, could be classed as a nanny state, depending on how extreme you think that the service and support they offer to their people is. Some people view that in a negative light, other people view that in a positive light. Personally, obviously, like with everything, there's ups and downs to everything, but here's a video of what Liz Truss had to say in Washington the other day. I'm not quite sure why she's in Washington talking about the UK, but here we are. Let's have a listen to what she has to say.
Economies simply haven't been growing fast enough. We've seen low growth now for several decades. And this is particularly acute in the United Kingdom. Real incomes haven't increased significantly since the financial crisis. And the average GDP per capita in the UK is now 30% less than it is in the United States. That is not a good position for us to be in. It was much closer 2 decades ago. The symptoms that we're seeing are low growth, we're seeing high cost of living, and we're seeing real wages having declining value. The disease is ever larger government, and we have to ask ourselves, with our economies in the state they are now, are we going to be match fit to take on China in the decades ahead? And are we going to be able to make the case that our model, Anglo-American capitalism, is better than Chinese state capitalism? The sad truth is what I think we've seen over the past few years is a new kind of economic model taking hold in our countries. One that's focused on redistributionism, on stagnation, and on the imbuing of woke culture into our businesses.
Guys, I don't know if there was a bit of feedback there or the sound was delayed, but I hope that you got a little bit of what was said in the clip. And the clip is actually originally almost like an hour long, so if you want to watch the full thing, you can have a look on YouTube. It's uploaded on there. I just watched through it myself not long ago, prior to being here today. And first of all, it's quite funny to me because as we have not forgotten, Liz Truss is the shortest serving British Prime Minister in history after quitting her office in 44 days. And she is very much entitled to still claim a 6-figure allowance even after being forced out by her own party. So she still has all the entitlements that, a former prime minister is entitled to, even though she only served for 44 days. And this is someone who's talking about society in the UK and the US having a sense of entitlement when it comes to government funding. So I don't personally know whether she's claimed or she's got plans on claiming the allowance that she's entitled to or not. But I'm gonna say she probably will claim it. Like, who's not gonna, But my point is, she had a reasonable few points in there that I can't completely discredit because, in everything there's truth in everything. But I believe that how she chooses to have a perception on the matter is quite negative because, first of all, the Western worlds have built their countries economically enough at the hands of other countries, by the way, but that's another conversation. and they've built their community and their government strong enough to be able to sustain a capitalist society. And we are capitalism, like we live in a capitalism based structure in the UK and the US. And I'm going to speak on both since she was referring to both nations equally. And you know, people go to work, they pay their taxes, those taxes fund, you know, the services that the government provides, and we feed into the government feeds back into the people. That we feed, like, it's a two-way street, it's not a one-way street. And she actually made a reference to the COVID times when people were getting, you know, entitlement grants that they could claim due to being inconvenienced by COVID and the lockdown. And she referred to that as, you know, money just being handed out uh, for no reason. Like, people didn't need to be given that money, that they, you know, it's just the government wasting money and people feeling entitled to take that money. And, you know, business were affected. Yeah, people had to shut down their services. So that money was very much needed to keep their business afloat, maybe, or for them to rebrand or try and find another way to continue making income while waiting for life to get back to normality, for whatever normality is now. And yeah, it's a very strange argument. It's very, for me, it's a bit hypocritical because she's very much in the same position. Like, even that trip to America there, I'm sure she's getting paid for that. I'm sure her trip there was sponsored for, because I believe that's one of the benefits as well of being a former prime minister or being a prime minister, is that, you know, all inclusive flights everywhere. You know, you don't have to pay for that kind of stuff. You're enjoying the benefits of this government and what it has become. So why don't you want other people to enjoy it too? And she's saying how, this is another point she made, how, you know, banks or big businesses can go and declare bankruptcy or ask for help because, you know, when their businesses are falling short. And she's saying, oh, now everyday people, small businesses feel like they're entitled to that as well. Well, yeah, duh, because they're doing the same thing. Just because they're not doing it on the same scale doesn't mean they're not doing the same thing. So I'm not quite sure what her argument there is exactly, because I don't believe the point she's trying to make, for me personally, was just making sense. She sounded very, for the first time, I saw the real meaning behind what it means to be a conservative, like in an extreme way, which I don't always see conservatism in that light, but she's just shone a very negative light on conservative for me today. So yeah, I don't know if that was a successful trip, if she got what she wanted out of that trip, or if she's just made people hate her even more or just ridiculing her at this point. But, you know, it's like I said, the internet resorts to nasty comments and petty comments when they're not even trying to focus on the real issues that are actually important, but instead they resort to insulting the person as if that's going to make a difference. Insulting Liz Truss and body shaming her or whatever, insulting her name, it's giving grade 5. It's not improving our society in any way. If you actually want to make a change, listen to the things that she's talking about and understand that those are the people in positions of power and those are the people making decisions on your behalf daily. And if you're too busy worried about how short Rishi Sunak is, or if he got bullied in school and he's the kind of guy who looked like he got bullied in school, well, he's the kind of guy who got bullied in school and is running the country. So, you know, let's just be a bit more, I don't know, proactive instead of just making noise online. Speaking of another legal matter that was challenged and failed, was the coal mines that, you know, will be happening in the UK. And I feel like people are not taking this seriously. Like, do you remember a world where we had coal mines all around the UK, like when people used to work in coal mines and things like that? And even the people protesting, for me, like, how can you go to a protest, you're angry, you don't want new coal mines, but you're smiling in the photos, you're just happy that the BBC is there to take pictures of you? Like, Let's make it make sense, people. You did not get the results that you wanted. Why are you why are you saying cheese? Like, I'm not saying I want to see violence being evoked or played out, but I just want to see a sense of disappointment, outroar. But we're not going to see that. And in a couple of years, when people are complaining about their health, they're complaining about, the bad jobs that people have to work. And that is because of things like this. But because they didn't really pay attention to it when it was important, they suffer at the hands of the fate that has been decided for them, like, once again. And this is one of the problems about having a nanny state, because once they, hand out a loan, they hand out a grant, they hand out a relief fund or whatever, people are like, oh, well, we've been reprehended for our suffering, so, we'll take it and, just leave it at that and call it, the situation has been hashed and it's all done and good. But there are a lot of people whose lives are going to be affected by coal mines. And it's quite sad, really, because I don't think people see the dangers that come with this. But at the same time, obviously, we need to be able to generate our own powers. And did you guys know that there's a restrictions on actually, like, solar winds, and they're not allowed to put those up anymore in the fields, so they're resorting to this instead? I'm like, but that's like I know it has its negatives as well, having all those wind farms and stuff like that, because a lot of birds is a danger to birds, because a lot of birds die as a result of just flying into them. And obviously the scenery as well, some people say they don't look good, they're taking up too much space, but they're producing a healthy, resourceful power. Like, it's a source of energy, and it's a healthy way of doing it, even though it has its negatives. But I believe that if you want to compare that to coal mines, the negatives outweigh the positives. But here we are. I can't believe that one's illegal, but we're here going back to old mines. It's like we're taking a trip back to the Middle Age. But a lot of people are feeling like they're not going to be affected. They live in the city. Obviously, this is not going to happen in London or Birmingham, in the big city. It's going to happen in one village somewhere, like, where nobody's going to be, not a lot of people live there, or it's a small town, small village. And it's quite unfortunate, really, because, like, where's the inclusivity? Where's the, the community spirit? Where's the love for the country, love of the country, right? But I know that's just a very American thing. They love their country, but I don't really see a lot of love for the UK. A lot of people don't really love on the UK. A lot of people, all they have to say, if you talk to anybody today, they'll tell you, UK is bad vibes, I want to leave this country, I want to do this, I want to do that. But at the end of the day, this is our country, where we live, our livelihood is here. A lot of people might be building for, I don't know, for retirement in Spain or retirement in somewhere else, but this is where we're building. And if we can't build in a healthy, safe environment, then, what are we doing? There's a lot of feedback there. Is that okay? Okay. Apologies for that, guys. Does anybody join the live today? Anybody in the comment section? Let me know your thoughts on any of the topics that we've spoken about today. It's actually quite interesting as well, guys, because I saw a report that said, pregnant women will be paid £400 to stop smoking. And I just thought of this because the two conversations kind of one talks about, harmful fumes, and one's talking about the government paying people to not do something. And this is just one of those things that makes me think, wow, this is one of the downsides of being in a nanny state, because as a pregnant woman, why are you being convinced by £400 over the safety and health of your child, unborn child, to convince you to quit smoking? And how would they even know that you've actually quit and you didn't just, claim that £400 quickly and call it a day, but you don't actually stop smoking? How will they know that you're not smoking anymore? What is the thought process behind that? That actual little Or are they going to be monitoring you? Do you have to go take tests at the center to see if you have any nicotine? Is it nicotine in your body, in your bloodstream? I mean, how are they going to do it? It's very strange to me. It's one of those other things that I'm thinking, yeah, that's a very nanny state behavior. And I can see why people will be annoyed with a nanny state, because I'm just like, just throwing £400 at a pregnant woman who's choosing money over her health and the health of her baby. But smoking is an addictive thing. I'm not trying to shame anybody. Like, it's hard to stop. There are people who are genuinely addicted, and maybe for them that's just a little motivation. Who knows? Maybe look at it that way. Let me not be a negative Nancy and see something in a positive light rather than a negative light. But that's the sad reality that we live in. But guys, those are all the topics that we spoke about today. And if you have any thoughts, let me know in the comment section. I know nobody's in the live chat right now, but give me some of your thoughts and ideas on the topics that we've spoken about today. If you never heard of a nanny state before, or you knew what it was, and your thoughts of being part of a nanny state nation, and a state that's classed as a nanny state nation according to some sociologists. Not everybody might believe that's the case, but we do have a lot of attributes which could class us as a nanny state. And also, if you believe in the smacking of children, personally, I don't think anybody should have the right to tell someone how to discipline their child, especially if it's out of love and it's a safe home environment. Then a parent, like the government like rightfully said, we have to trust the parent that they love their child and they're doing it out of love, and they're doing it out of pure discipline and not any other motives such as abuse. But again, it's one of those things, borderline abuse, that just take away the dangers once and for all instead of having that slippery slope. But at the same time, that doesn't stop abusers. If somebody is going to be an abuser, they're going to be an abuser despite the law. We've seen it. People get told don't do it and they still do it, and that's why we have a justice system. So allow parents to discipline their kids and allow the justice system to step in if necessary. Hopefully that's not the case. But yeah, that will be all for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in today's episode. Please be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, Breakthrough TV, Breakthrough Instagram. Subscribe there as well at my personal Instagram accounts, The Hope Akedika Show. I will be posting, I'm talking on there on a much more regular basis, on a weekly basis, posting stories and keeping you guys updated about what's going on in our world. So for now, have a blessed evening, guys, and I'll be seeing you here next week, Thursday.